What you see very much depends on where you look. This is Saturday in Kenosha, Wisconsin. The family of Jacob Blake at the head of a march demanding police reforms and broader racial justice. The Blake family also had a role in Friday's March on Washington, urging peaceful protest. 57 years after Martin Luther King delivered his most famous speech, his granddaughter took up the baton.
Less than a year before he was assassinated, my grandfather predicted this very moment. He said that we were moving into a new phase of the struggle. The first phase was the civil rights, and the new phase is genuine equality.
The president looks at this moment of reckoning and sees anarchy, saying a tougher approach to law and order is needed in cities run by Democrats. The president this morning tweeting and retweeting that deadly violence in Portland, Oregon overnight only proves his point. With us this Sunday, the Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin, Mandela Barnes. Governor Barnes, thank you for joining us at this stressful time, an important time in your community. The President of the United States is coming to Kenosha on Tuesday. I want you to listen to the former head of the NAACP who says, please don't, sir.
This case, it is absolutely alarming. It is frightening. The president is literally going to Kenosha, turning Air Force One into a gasoline truck. That is to say, he's bringing gas to a fire. The president is going to make a bad situation worse.
You agree with that?
I completely agree with it. You look at the incendiary remarks that the president has made. They centered an entire convention around creating more animosity and creating more division around what's going on in Kenosha. So I don't know how, given any of the previous statements that the president made, that he intends to come here to be helpful. And we absolutely don't need that right now. We had a beautiful celebration yesterday. People from all walks of life showed up in Kenosha, marched peacefully through the streets. But, you know, besides the peaceful part, the presence was felt because there were people from so many different backgrounds, different races, religions, you know, sexual orientation. It didn't matter. People wanted justice, but most importantly, people wanted unity.
What do you need to hear from Joe Biden at this moment in time? We know he's going to come out. He wants to deliver a statement about all of this as well at a time where he wants to focus on, obviously, racial justice. He wants to focus on police reforms. There are a lot of Republicans, including the current president of the United States, saying the Democrats are weak. The Democrats need to have a tougher message. The Democrats need to tell these mayors, stop the violence. What should Joe Biden say at this moment?
Well, there are stages in protest and there are stages in organizing. I think that we need to come to some sort of resolve, and Joe Biden needs to clearly outline his plan, which he's been doing. He's been talking about the need for us to have our racial reckoning and talk about the issues that are important and address them as well, especially the more deep systemic ones. You know, we talk about police violence a lot, but there are so many other issues that are systemic violence, like, you know, lack of access to health care, education issues, environmental issues. We have so much work to do, and I hope that when Joe Biden does visit, that he lays out clearly and very plainly, as he does speak very clearly and plainly about these things. And, you know, meeting with the family, having a chance to talk to them. I know they spoke on the phone for like an hour, but, you know, being able to communicate directly to the folks who are feeling so much hurt and pain, who aren't the family members, Kenosha community members who are left confused, who are left wondering what's next. A lot of people are left hopeless in this moment, and that's totally understandable. And it is up to a leader. And I think that, you know, Joe Biden has to step up to the mantle in this moment and talk to them and say, you know, better is possible. We don't have to be this way, but we also can do away with what got us here in the first place. You know, what led to the uprising, what led to all the frustration that's happening in Kenosha right now, and make a vow to never, ever go back to that again.
So help me understand the community right now in the context of the week ago, the Jacob Blake shooting. You had the police union put out, you know, there were warrants. You know, there was a knife in the car, and a lot of people took that as the police union trying to get out ahead of the investigation, saying, you know, everybody should calm down. This was a bad guy. This is a bad guy, and so the police had every reason to be on edge, if you will. And you also had after, of course, the young man from Illinois who crossed into your state. He's now charged with homicide as part of the protest there. I want you to listen to Jacob Blake's father, who says he's watching the investigation plays out into the shooting of his son 7 times in the back, and the investigation of this young white man from Illinois who walked right by the police in Kenosha. He sees 2 different worlds. Listen.
The man walks down the street and kills 2 people and blows another man's arm off. Had that been a black man, he'd have been dead right on the spot. He'd have never been able to make it back home.
What is the answer? Where is the circuit breaker to build trust, the vital missing trust?
Yeah, the circuit breaker to build that vital trust, to actually acknowledge what happened. I haven't heard that condemnation of the person who actually killed 2 people. And that's the most frustrating part. And if you are going to serve a community, you have to have trust. You have to have trust established. And there's no way that you can have that established if you continue to just find an excuse or find some sort of justification that you seemingly pull out of thin air in these sort of situations. Like I said before, this is a moment for, law enforcement, especially in Kenosha, to step up and take ownership of what happened and show a desire to want for things to get better. I don't feel that desire personally. That's why, I'm stepping up my calls for them to do everything that they can do to show transparency and show some accountability so that the community, the entire community in Kenosha, across the state, and even across the country, because Kenosha can serve as an example. But they have to take ownership of that mistake first, admit to it. If something did go wrong, say something went wrong, and we want to fix this. We want to better serve communities. But for them to not step up into leadership that way and acknowledge what looks wrong to so many people, and instead say, "Oh, this is a bad guy," when so many people across the world saw a man get shot in the back 7 times. It doesn't provide the help. It doesn't provide the comfort that we need. And this is a new day. We have to again address policing. Like I said, policing it can be challenging. Sure, I get it, but it can be even more challenging for communities who are, quite frankly, afraid, especially right now, because they don't know what's going to happen with the next interaction. And we just want things to be better. We want the trust to be repaired, because we all have a lot of work to do, and it's a whole lot of people who are counting on them to do the right thing.
Well, you and the governor have tried, and so far you can't get Republicans in the legislature to agree to take up a police reform and broader plan for racial justice. And for your comments there about the need for trust in the city of Kenosha, in your view, does Kenosha need a new police chief?
I've been disappointed by Kenosha's police chief. I can't take a vote of confidence or a vote of lack of confidence, but if I could, probably would take that vote, because it is distressing. Like I said, there is no condemnation, Harley, for the person who actually killed 2 people. And on the topic of the legislature refusing to act, the governor called for a special session to be held tomorrow. People are ramping up their calls to their legislators to demand that they act, because the last time they gavelled in and they gavelled out without taking up any of the legislation. This time must be different. And while I have a chance to speak to your broader audience, I want the world to know that the legislature has a choice. The Republican majority in the legislature has a choice tomorrow. They can either act and work to solve these problems that we're facing here in Wisconsin and across the country, or they can gavel in and gavel out and go back home and face no consequences if we let them. And that would be the most unfortunate thing that could happen in this moment, because people deserve answers and people deserve leadership. And I would hope that for them to have this majority that they have, 63 Republicans in the Assembly to 36 Democrats, I hope that they will use that majority for good.
Well, we'll certainly watch that, track that tomorrow. Also, the former vice president and the president setting foot in Wisconsin at this very tinderbox moment in the country. Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, grateful for your time, sir. We'll keep in touch in the week ahead, and we wish you and your state the best at these difficult moments.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.